Nathan had 4 days to come up with $11,000, or he would lose the workshop his father built with his own hands 30 years earlier. Then a customer walked in and accidentally handed him 10 times that amount. This is Nathan's story, and the 4 days that revealed exactly who he was. Cole's Woodworks sat on the corner of a quiet street, a small furniture restoration shop that used to have a line out the door back when Nathan's father ran it. Nathan had kept it open for 6 years since his father passed, mostly out of stubbornness. He'd grown up in this shop, sanding table legs before he was tall enough to see over the workbench, learning to read wood grain before he learned to read most books. The bank loan his father had taken out to expand the shop was still being paid down, slower than it should have been. A slow year had turned into a slow 2 years, and Nathan had stopped telling people exactly how bad it had gotten. 3 months behind now. The bank's final notice sat unopened on the counter for 2 days before Nathan finally read it. 96 hours to pay $11,000, or the shop, the tools, the building, all of it would be seized. He'd already sold what he could. His truck, half his good tools, a set of his father's hand planes a collector had wanted for years, tools Nathan had promised himself he'd never part with. It wasn't enough. It was close. But it wasn't enough. He did the math 4 different times that night, hoping a different number might show up if he tried hard enough. Above the workbench, carved into an old beam by his father decades earlier, was a phrase Nathan had walked past 10,000 times without really reading. Water damage had eaten through the middle of it years ago. All that remained clearly were the words "money reveals" at the start, and nothing legible after that. Nathan had never asked his father what the rest of it said. He'd meant to, more than once. Now there was no one left to ask. On the second day of his 96 hours, an elderly, regular customer named Otis came by to pick up a chair Nathan had repaired. Otis paid in cash, the way he always did, counting out exactly what he owed onto the counter. After he left, Nathan found an envelope tucked under the chair's cushion, clearly forgotten. Inside was a thick stack of bills. He counted it twice. $11,400. The exact number he needed, almost to the dollar, sitting in an envelope that had already left the building once and come back by accident. Nathan stood there holding it for a long time, the workshop silent except for the old clock above the register. Otis was in his 80s. Forgetful about small things lately, Nathan had noticed. He might not even remember the envelope existed. He certainly wouldn't remember the exact amount inside it. Nobody would ever know. Nathan didn't sleep that night. He sat alone in the dark workshop, one lamp hanging over the workbench, the envelope resting under the light like evidence in a trial only he was attending. He told himself a version of events where this was fine. Otis was comfortable, clearly, paying cash for expensive chair repairs without blinking. This wouldn't hurt him. It would save Nathan's entire life's work, everything his father had built, everything Nathan had bled to keep standing for 6 hard years. He picked up the envelope twice, put it down twice. Once, he even got as far as sliding it into his jacket pocket, then took it back out 5 minutes later, unable to explain to himself exactly why. Around 2 in the morning, he pulled out his phone and searched Otis's name, the one on the old receipts in his files. What came up surprised him. Otis had been a bank vice president for 40 years before retiring, on the board of 2 local charities, well known in town for quiet generosity nobody talked about much. That didn't make Nathan's decision easier. If anything, it made it harder to look at the money without feeling something crawl up the back of his neck. A man like that would notice an amount like this missing. Eventually. Maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. He thought about his father's carved words. Money reveals. Reveals what, exactly? He'd never known. Tonight, for the first time, staring at an envelope that could save everything or cost him something he couldn't quite name, he suspected he was about to find out the hard way. Morning came without an answer. He hadn't decided anything. He'd just run out of night. The next morning, Otis came back to the shop, visibly agitated, asking if Nathan had seen an envelope. "It's not really mine to lose carelessly," Otis said. That was all he offered by way of explanation. Nathan's hand hovered near the drawer where he'd hidden it overnight. For one long second he considered saying no. He hadn't seen anything. The chair had been empty when he checked it. "Everything all right?" Nathan asked instead, buying himself one more second, hating himself a little for even needing it. Otis studied him for a moment, the way older men sometimes study someone they're deciding whether to trust. His eyes moved from Nathan's face to the drawer Nathan's hand kept drifting toward, and back again. "Depends what happens in the next 30 seconds, he said. Nathan pulled open the drawer and set the envelope on the counter. His hands weren't quite steady doing it. Otis didn't smile, didn't relax. He just looked at it, then at Nathan, and asked one question. "Did you count it?" Nathan swallowed. "Yes. And? It's 11,4. That's almost exactly what I owe the bank by Friday." Otis nodded slowly, like he already knew that number before Nathan said it out loud. "Interesting timing," he said. Nothing more. He let the silence do whatever work it was going to do. Otis picked up the envelope, and for a moment Nathan's stomach dropped, certain he'd just watched his last real chance walk out the door in an old man's coat pocket. Instead, Otis pulled out a business card and set it on the counter next to the envelope. "I haven't been a bank vice president in a long time," he said, "but I still know how to structure a small business loan when I see one worth making." Nathan stared at him, not understanding yet. "This wasn't forgotten," Otis said. "I left it on purpose. Every few years, I find someone in a tight spot, and I leave something in reach they think nobody's watching. Most people keep it. That tells me everything I need to know about them. And I quietly move on. You're the fourth person in 11 years who set it back down on the counter." Nathan's legs nearly gave out. He gripped the edge of the workbench. "The money was never the test," Otis said. "The test was always the 30 seconds before you decided what kind of man you were going to be for the rest of your life." He nodded toward the beam over the workbench, the one with his father's half-erased carving. "Money reveals," Otis said quietly. "Your father used to say the second half to me himself, years ago, right in this shop. It never builds. It only shows what was already being built, one decision at a time, long before the money ever showed up." Otis's loan saved the shop that week, not out of pity, out of exactly the kind of bet a former bank vice president knows how to make on a sure thing. Nathan had the missing half of his father's carving cut fresh into the beam a month later, the words filled in finally in his father's exact style. "Money reveals. It never builds." Here's the test, the same one Otis has quietly given a handful of people over 11 years, without most of them ever noticing they were being watched. The next time you find money that isn't yours, an overpayment, a mistake at checkout, cash that fell out of someone's pocket, you won't get 30 seconds of eye contact from a retired banker. You'll just have 30 seconds alone with yourself. That's always been the only test that ever mattered, because the money was never actually the money. It was just the fastest way anyone has ever found to find out who you already are.